Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
Go behind the scenes of all your favorite Star Trek series, from the original series to today, with the stars, writers, producers, and more, every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And for more, subscribe at trekspertsplus.com.
It's the logical thing to do.
Keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
This is DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
I thought it was a classic femme fatale. So much fun.
Like that Shakespearean lace in your acting.
I said, Gene, what do you want from this character?
I want you to take the character and make it your own.
I had a good time on the film.
On day one, the movie was already $15 million over budget.
We started this movie without an ending. That's like painting yourself into a corner.
I don't think we've ever had a Star Trek captain on our show.
Being, as you said, number one on the call sheet, it is a producer's position if you're going to take it seriously. I was so glad they didn't cast me as Lorca.
You famously wrote that script in 12 days.
On one level, I wrote the script, and on another level, the story was written by everybody and his brother.
Well, I was going to say, what was your response when you were directing and Terry, sort of called you aside and said, hey, I want you to get back in front of the camera again?
I said, he sort of chummed the water a little bit. Are you ready to play Riker? What I thought he was saying was, you better go to the gym and lose some weight. Lines. Are you going to trim your beard? Don't cut your hair. My interest was totally piqued. It's not hyperbole to say it's the best Riker material I've ever had.
New episodes available every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. Or subscribe today at TrekspertsPlus.com.
But keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious
Treksperts.
God, guys.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode. More Star Treks than there are in heaven. A look at the Super 70 millimeter Star Trek 60th anniversary series at the Beverly Hills Fine Arts Theater. We're going to have an interesting conversation with the director of public programming for the Beverly Hills Fine Arts, Jerry Blackburn, who's going to tell us a lot about the art of 70 millimeter and why showing 70 millimeter prints are so important, and how he got access to the Star Trek archives. And it's a fascinating conversation, so stick around.
Not to be confused with the first AD of TOS.
Oh,
that wasn't Jerry Blackburn. That was Bobby Blackburn.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
You guys are nerds.
That was Charlie Blackburn.
Charlie Blackburn.
Charlie Washburn.
Charlie is our darling.
Charlie.
Oh, geez. What's going on?
You see, I told you he wasn't going to be confused.
Yeah. No confusion whatsoever. No confusion. But Jerry will be joining us in just a few minutes. But first, we got to take care of some housekeeping. I got a bunch of great letters about our recent episodes, but I'm not going to read them today because I haven't printed them out. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but suffice it to say, we've gotten some great feedback on our recent episodes as we journey to Vegas, and
they'll make a great non-guest episode for those of you who love those kinds of episodes.
Yeah, crazy bastards. But I will tell you this, so today I'm in the car, I'm going to a lunch meeting, and I asked Siri to play Inglorious Treksperts, right? Say, Siri, play Inglorious Treksperts. And suddenly it says, playing Childish Gambino, Redbone. I've never listened to Childish Gambino in my life. And it was like,
what? I've had that trouble with Siri too, and I don't know what the heck is going on.
It was so weird because it bore no resemblance to what I was asking about. And that's what I was thinking. People say the transporter is the most outlandish thing that Star Trek came up with. I think the fact that the computer can actually recognize what Spock is saying and be accurate, that to me, voice recognition is the most crazy thing.
Working.
Because it's like, just like fire phasers, activating turbo lift.
Yeah, right.
Playing
What?
Subspace Rhapsody. It's like, it's like, what? It's like, voice command is just messed up. It's messed up. So, I just like, it was so annoying because I'm in the canyon. I'm trying to play my favorite podcast, ours. And, and it just like, it won't work. It just it's like childish Gambino. Now, I love, him on
Donald
Community.
Glover.
I love Donald Glover. I love him on Community. I love him as Lando. I trust him as a mother, but I didn't need to hear childish Gambino Redbone. I wanted to hear the Treksperts. So anyway,
when you want to hear the
recognition-
Treksperts, you go and Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use podcasts.
Well, now
But
you can
don't
listen-
ask Siri for it.
Well, now you can listen on YouTube because not only do we have the video episodes, you can also listen to the audio episodes on YouTube as well.
Wow.
So a lot of options there. A lot of cool options.
We love
with the
options.
YouTube.
Plethora of options.
We're just letting people know about the YouTube now. We got to get that out there because these episodes are great. These YouTubes that Brian Mix is putting together for us.
The YouTubes.
Yeah, he's doing an awesome job.
Yeah, he really is. Why does it look like I'm Dutched? I'm like on the Titanic here.
You're a Batman villain.
Yeah.
I'm a Batman villain. Dun, 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 dun.
Ozempic face.
Okay,
That was our
so
Batman villain we came up with at, which con was that?
I don't
I can't
remember.
keep track. They all blend together.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, "Where are you going this week?" I said,
You're not
"To
the
bed."
clock king, you're the Trek king.
Yeah.
The Trek King. So did you see the announcement this week? Universal theme nights. They're doing, Universal Studios is doing Star Trek nights, like the horror nights.
Really?
Same thing. Star Trek nights, horror nights. Yeah, they're doing Back to the Future. They're doing, they licensed a couple of properties because they couldn't find any Universal properties. They had to go to Paramount.
They've killed
they're
all the
doing-
Universal properties.
I'm going to read you from the press release.
Okay.
Star Trek. This experience is inspired by the Star Trek universe. How much you want to bet it's only inspired by the 31st century Star Trek universe?
Yeah.
One of television's most enduring franchises, which is known for its groundbreaking storytelling that addresses social, political, and cultural issues, as well as entertaining millions of fans. Oh, as well as entertaining. It's not just known for its social, political,
Also,
and
it's
cultural.
entertaining.
It's also entertaining. Star Trek's optimistic view of the future and reflection on what it means to be human, has inspired generations of dreamers and doers. Are you a dreamer or are you a doer?
I'm a doer. I'm a dream doer. I'm a dreamer.
I'm a doomer.
I'm a doomer.
You're a little negative, aren't you? He's negative.
You're negative.
You're like Taylor. You're kind of like Taylor.
Yeah, you
I
damn
never
right.
thought
I am.
about it.
I'm
Taylor.
the hero of my Planet of the
I don't
Apes
even
story.
know her.
For Christmas, I'm going to get you a little Ansa patch.
I would love
Because
that.
You're kind of like you're kind of negative.
I was just talking about that today. A friend of mine had a student project at USC, and it involved spacemen. And he rented a costume from Western Costumes, and it was Taylor's uniform.
Oh, really?
It was
That's so cool.
It was the real thing, and I wish he had just kept it and paid the deposit because it's gone now.
Oh, man.
It's gone to the four winds.
Oh my God, that would have been so great, and it would have been worth so much more money.
Well, who cares about money? It's the real thing.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
It's real.
I would have loved to have had that. The Heston's
amazing.
outfit.
Yeah.
I'd look like a marshmallow, but I still want one. I think it would be awesome. Marshmallow, perhaps.
Stewart, that was a lovely girl. She was to be the new Eve.
I remember that in Free Enterprise when the costume designer was trying on outfits on Shatner, and one of them was this white tracksuit. And he goes, "I look like a marshmallow."
Oh my God.
And I said, "Well, Bill, what would you like to wear?" "I look good in Armani." I bet you do.
Yeah.
That's more than the budget of the movie, but that's interesting.
We all look good in Armani-ville.
You're starting
true.
to drift off the planet.
I see that. It's a planet of apes.
My
We're
goodness.
experiencing technical difficulties here. I don't
Yeah,
have
if you want to watch this on YouTube,
You're enjoying it right now.
that's right.
There we go.
There we go. Oh my God. So yeah, this Universal thing, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm very big on keeping an open mind about things. So I'm not going to say it's going to be
No
bad.
doubt it will be Sylvia and Korob.
Well,
Halloween night.
They did address social, political, and cultural issues,
Yeah.
as well as entertaining millions of fans. Now, is Sylvia and Korob dreamers or doers?
I think they're doers. I mean,
they're
they
definitely
had the
doers.
transmuter to do what they needed to do.
They did. It's
And
true.
they, for pipe
They
cleaner
did the shit out of
creatures,
it.
they were awesome.
Yeah.
Look, they were never pipe cleaner creatures to me. They were an amazingly alien race that I had never seen anything quite like it before.
Made
Yes.
out of pipe cleaners.
It's like Darren talking about, I won the Peabody Award. That's so amazing. I paid for it. It's like, I don't care that you paid for it. You won. You paid for to own the physical manifestation, the trophy. You paid
It's
for the
made
trophy.
out of pipe cleaners.
Oh my God. How I'm the one who's the jerk, and yet I'm the Mr. Positive, and you guys are negative.
No,
I don't
you're
get
still
it.
the
Not
jerk.
negative. We're just cynical. But funny.
It's funnier.
I don't know. We got to go to the Star Trek Universal experience together. It's like, the Peabody Award. We got to, like when we went that time with Jeff Bond to the IMAX virtual reality Star Trek bridge crew thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you wanna organize something, I'll be a part of it.
Well, we got to find out when it's going to be. Star Trek nights.
Probably around October.
It's going to be. It's going to make us crazy.
Yes.
They probably will not even mention Kirk or
Kirk,
anything.
who's that?
Anything pre 2009.
Well, it is. They do say it's going to be a horror night. So
Could be. By the way, I have to tell you, I told Darren this earlier, but I was.
You're quitting the show?
I'm quitting the show. I was idly watching Where No Man Has Gone Before. Okay. And I'm on the scene where, Gary Mitchell is now he's in the sick bay, and he's just been hit by the
orangutan.
By the orangutan. He fought the baboon, and he's thinking about Stephanie Powers and Tuesday Weld, and just thinking about what a lucky boy I am. And Shatner comes in, and my wife walks into the room, and she looks, and she sees Shatner on screen with Gary Lockwood. And she just stops. She just almost has no idea what she's looking at, other than it's obviously Star Trek. And she says, "There is a lot of testosterone on that screen." And I said,
Right.
"Oh, yes, you have
Darn right
no
there
idea
is.
how much testosterone is on that screen." And so I
Yeah,
told her
she's-
a little bit about Gary, and she was like, like Stephanie Powers and like Tuesday. And she's like, "Well, yeah, look at the hair." Just like,
Did you tell
what?
her about his abortionist on call?
No, we didn't have that conversation.
Okay.
But she was impressed with young Gary.
as well, she should be.
Well, she
How
should.
could you, how could you not be?
How could you not be?
Speaking of watching, I know a lot of you want a marathon report. Marathon man. So by the way, when I reported on where Isaac is in the Star Trek marathon, it wasn't for the uniform we watched. It was for the cause. We haven't gotten to for the uniform.
Oh,
it was
shit,
the
okay.
first. It was.
So you
we
lied.
For the Cause is a
exaggerated.
good episode too.
No, it was good because we find out that Eddington is working with the McKee.
Yep.
But so this week, I got to tell you, we're Deep Space Nine, so we're into the 5th season. Apocalypse Rising, looking for Parmak and all the wrong. It's just strength after strength after strength. But because he's watching the air date order, we have to keep going back to Voyager, and we hit the Future's End 2-parter. My God, if there's a worse 2 hours of television in the history of Star Trek, I don't know what it is. It is so awful.
I thought
Oh,
we
yeah, it
only
is
talked
not good.
positive about things.
Yeah, Mr.
Well,
I'm the optimist.
I'm just telling you what my son said. But man, I haven't watched some of these Deep Space Nines. Like The Ship, I haven't watched in probably 25 years. Holy mackerel, is that a good episode?
Yeah.
So good. So good. I mean, it's like, I'm like, don't watch Deep Space Nine without me. He says, well, if you're going to watch Deep Space Nine, you got to sit here and watch Voyager with me. I'm like, no, I don't.
That
No
warms
way.
the cockles of my heart.
Oh, man, is Deep Space Nine good. And I forgot, I mean, it's like there's a lot, like looking for Parmak and all that whole lead up to Trials and Tribulations. Freaking amazing. Oh, that Jake episode, Door to the Battle Strong.
Yeah.
Oh, heartbreaking. So good.
Yeah, it's
no wonder all these people who have had PTSD love Deep Space Nine. I mean, obviously later on with Nog, but I haven't told him anything about that, obviously.
Well, it was interesting at, I think it was at San Jose. There were just so many people in our audiences whenever we would just sort of see, like, who's here is a DS9 fan? There were a lot of people out there, those cons, who are Deep Space Nine fans. It is still, I think, just quietly just got this incredibly intense fan base, even though it's not always the show that we're talking about it, but that is being talked about.
But Mark, you definitely have to give us a full report when Isaac sees Trials and Tribulations.
Oh no, we watched it. I mean, he loves it. He loves
the full report.
Oh my God! I mean, he just it's his favorite episode of Deep Space Nine. And I told him what Ira Bear said. It can't be because it's the 80th episode of TOS. It's not a Deep Space Nine episode. But he just, oh my God, he loved that episode so much. He said he wants to see a version of Tribbles where they just cut.
No, you don't want to do that. No.
But when they just happen to be lurking around in the background. But
like, where's Waldo?
Oh yeah, he loves
Cisco
because TOS is still holding on as his favorite show, but Deep Space Nine is a very close second. It's nipping at its heels.
God bless him.
Which is great. So we're having such a good time, and we took a break because he had to watch First Contact because that fell in the freaking air date order. So we had to stop and watch First Contact, which he'd already seen, but he appreciated on a whole new level because he likes the Doctor on Voyager, and he's in that and everything. So anyway, but that's the Isaac Altman marathon update for those of you who are interested in keeping track. But
attention, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea.
But I think it's time. People have a chance to listen to our interview with Jerry Blackburn about the upcoming Star Trek Festival at the Fine Arts, and I think it's going to be really eye-opening for a lot of people. So we're going to bring Jerry on right after these brief commercial messages. So stay tuned. There's more to tell.
Human adventure is just beginning. William Shatner, take us out, is Captain James T. Kirk. Leonard Nimoy is Mr. Spock. DeForest Kelley is Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy. James Doohan is Lieutenant Commander Montgomery Scott. George Takei is Lieutenant Commander Sulu. Majel Barrett is Dr. Christine Chappell. Walter Koenig is Lieutenant Pavel Chekhov. Nichelle Nichols is Lieutenant Commander Uhura. Stephen Collins is Commander Willard Decker. Persis Kambata is Lieutenant Ilia. Star Trek, the motion picture. Gene Roddenberry's production of a Robert Wise film. Coming this Christmas from Paramount.
Hey, Jerry, it's great to have you joining us. We're excited about this this great festival that you're putting together at the Beverly Hills Fine Arts Theater that you've curated. It's all the original Star Trek films starting this Friday with Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition, which, as I understand it, that will be a DCP, but everything else are 70 millimeter prints.
Correct.
That's great.
It's a 4K restoration of the director's cut that was done a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, you know, DAREN is an associate producer on it. He was also the visual effects supervisor, so he knows a little something about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
We weren't able to churn out a 70 millimeter print, unfortunately. But
there's a lot of things that don't get that in today's society.
This is absolutely true.
I mean, unless you're, you know, have a name of some sort to pull that sort of power, they're very expensive.
Absolutely.
And there's very few places that make them anymore. There's only one in the United States that I know of. So, you know, they're sort of a rarity. And the prints, 3 of the prints that I got were from the Paramount archive, because there were no 70 millimeter release prints of those 3 titles.
Right.
You know, and even those they're not in perfect shape. But what I have found is most people that come to particularly a 70 millimeter prints that I have put together, they're more interested in seeing a 70 millimeter to film and the imperfections of it to start with, because it's an imperfect medium to start with. And some of these prints are over 40 years old and they show their age a little bit.
Yeah, I remember we had shown Star Trek The Motion Picture a few years ago, the 70 at the Cinematheque, but unfortunately it was such a victim of the vinegar syndrome. I mean, it was so pink that people were just ready to walk out because
I remember that.
You know, it was unfortunate that they hadn't checked the print before screening it, but it was also the best one they could get their hands on.
Well, I only know that they made like 1 or 2 of those of the motion picture. These do have some of the same elements, and I'm discussing, you know, the group has kind of decided, you know, that they, just because it's 70 millimeter, they would rather do that. We're going to filter it best we can. I ran Wrath of Khan in 2010. It was a release print. I have checked it since then, and the mag track has degraded to where it's not usable. This one is not quite as pink as that one, but the soundtrack is in excellent condition. So, and they do show some scratches and things, but on those 3 titles, these are the last 3 prints that I know of. In the United States, unless somebody has some private collection print somewhere that you know, I don't know of or have access to. So,
well, I want to ask you about that, you know, because obviously a lot of the repertory theaters are starting to show, you know, DCPs. So the studios don't want to spend money, you know, making new prints, or they're not taking great care of prints. But I want to start at the beginning with what prompted you to curate this festival? I mean, obviously you're calling it the 60th anniversary, which is slightly early, but tell us a little bit about your plan, where this came from, how you went about it, and, you know, just the whole way it came together.
Yeah, well, because I did a similar event back in 2010, and I ran 2 through 6 in 70 millimeter. As these are actually, some of these are the same prints, and it did well. Always having been a Star Trek fan myself, I knew there was a big following of it, and there seemed to be a lot of interest in it. I mean, so much, you know, I was at the beginning of knowing how to contact people, like directors and things like that. It was before I'd gotten that kind of far into the industry, other than the things that I had worked on. And, you know, how do you get Nicholas Meyer? How do you get in touch with this person? And I got Nick and Ralph and Walter and George on that first round, and I could not get a hold of Michelle, who's since now passed, unfortunately. I mean, I tried publicist, agent, I couldn't get anything back. And somebody walked into the theater about 10 days before the thing and says to me, Nichelle wants to know why you didn't invite her. It's like, I've been trying to get in touch with her, and she was wonderful. I mean, she came over and, signed things, and, everybody just had a good time. I mean, it was Saturdays at midnight. So maybe we had sort of like the midnight cultish audience, which might be a little bit different than we have this time. A lot of people at that time said, this is great, but it'd be a lot better if you would do it during the day. So now I'm doing it during the day to catch the other half of it. And I just thought, well, after, Nichelle had passed, and I thought, these people are not going to be around much longer, and I would like to do this while some of them are still alive and available.
Sure.
And, people can see them again in person.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that's great.
Yeah, I was a big fan, the Midwestern farm boy, great in the Midwest, and seeing this, futuristic, perfect, sort of world sort of situation. And the relationship between Spock and McCoy in particular, that sort of friendship really struck out to me at that time. And so I've always been a fan of it.
Yeah. The Beverly Hills Fine Arts is, it now does specialty screenings, right? You don't play anything.
Yes.
Right. So you've leaned heavily into genre. I remember a couple of years ago, you did a great Capricorn 1 screening with James Brolin, and I think Peter Hyams was there. You've done some really great stuff, and you have some great stuff coming up. Yeah. So it seems like you're, a big genre fan, that's been a big part of the programming that you've done.
A bit. I think the Capricorn 1 was before I actually started working there. But yeah, I'm more a 70 millimeter fan than anything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're just now in the last 2 films after Star Trek of our Christopher Nolan Summer 70. And we're fortunate enough to get Oppenheimer on the 15th of this month. And it's the 70 millimeter prints were not available unless you had some sort of series. So we were very fortunate to even be able to get that. And I worked on that when it first came out. So, it's difficult to find an audience at times because people have different interests, and you never do. If anybody knew for sure what was going to be a hit, if I knew, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would be sitting somewhere calling it and say, play this. This is going to be great.
Sure.
I mean, over the years, there have been so many things. People say, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. This is going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then it just flops. And then you've got this other thing that it's got these people associated with it, but we don't know anything about it. And it's kind of pass on it. And then it is wonderful. It just, commercially anyway, does great and has a following even today.
Your penultimate film in the festival is Life Force. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's from what I have heard, it's a rarely used print. I'm told it looks spectacular. I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm hoping that will be a good draw.
Did you mention that your Star Trek II print is more recent?
No, that. It being the older of the titles, it has more degradation to it than the other. As we kind of move forward, there's less of that.
No, I was just wondering because the first batch of prints, the 70 millimeter prints that came out during the original release, actually have Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, not Star Trek II.
Ew. That is a good point. I don't know. I just watched it like yesterday, more for quality. I mean, I wasn't looking for that specifically, more for like, does it sound right? Does it look, as good as it can? And that's a good point. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. I didn't know that they ever did like a second, probably additional prints on the original run is probably what that was.
I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, but although I should ask Ralph Winter because he actually QC'd all those prints before they had the mag track struck.
Right.
It's very possible, since this is the archive print at Paramount, that it was probably one of the first ones made. So
cool.
It's an interesting point. I'll have to check that out. I'm sorry. I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people who have been showing the DCP, which I believe is the so-called director's edition.
Yes.
So what's really nice is that you're showing the original theatrical version, obviously,
Yeah.
as you're showing the 70 millimeter print,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. How are the rest of the films? How does Star Trek 3 look? I mean, that's a film 40 years old.
I have not looked at 3 or 4 yet. I've looked at 2, 5, and 6. I mean, they all do have the vinegar syndrome, but it lessens as you move forward.
Right.
I was a little bit surprised to find the condition that 2 was in, as far as some scratches. I mean, they're there, but they're there and they're more prominent, obviously, in certain scenes. Some scenes you don't really see them at all if you're sitting towards the back. So they kind of come and go. I have been fighting, for a couple of days back and forth about that. And I've asked Ralph and Nick for some feedback on that. I'm assuming that we're going to go with it. I don't want to change that at this point if I don't have to. So
Right.
I think it goes back to the audience wanting to see 70 millimeter. And I've never had anybody ask for refunds because of that. I hope that's not going to be an issue this time. But I am posting the condition of the prints in advance, so everybody knows going in what the condition is.
Yeah, I wonder if the reason is that, 2 has played a lot more in repertory than some of the others. So it's probably gotten screened a lot more. And as a result, it might not be in as good a shape as some of the later films.
Yeah, but this is a archiver. This is a vault print. It's not a repertory print. I mean, you have to have an act of God almost to get it out. And that's what really surprised me, because I was told when I got it, it's probably a, class 2, 1 to 4, 1 being the highest. And when I got it back to the theater, I got the report and it said it was a 3. And I looked at it, and the picture is actually worse than the release print was, but it has a good mag track. So it was a choice. It's like I play the one that can be played. And I do, if there is a huge uprising on that evening, I do have a DCP as a backup if consensus is that is the way to go, because I don't want to, have anybody miss out on the screening.
But I think it's what you said, it's educating people about 70 millimeter, because I think a lot of people who are going to these kinds of screenings now are not just the people that saw them originally in the theater, but people who grew up in them, watching them on television and home video. So for them, seeing it in 70 millimeter is a really special experience. Sure. Because the DCP is almost like watching your home theater on a much bigger screen, whereas seeing it on film is an experience that they can't have at home. And it's really remarkable, and seeing all that film grain and particularly the Star Trek films are unique because they weren't made on huge budgets other than the first film, and they show their budgets, but you can learn a lot watching this the way they were originally meant to be seen.
Yeah, and that is one of the things that I get a lot of. I've been worried about. I get Paramount says, "Oh, you don't want to play, not of the particular titles." I says, "Well, let me look at it, because sometimes what they see when they look at it this way over a light box is different than what it's going to look like on the screen." And I've had a couple of prints that, said, "Well, it's got some problems. We're going to play it and let people know in advance that, this is the condition in case you're not one of those people who, I don't say wants to see that, but, they like seeing that because it is just that. It shows the imperfections, and you can't see this just everywhere." So, that was kind of my force to continue with the prints that we've got.
I guess the Cinematheque showed Star Trek 6 recently at the Arrow. Is this the same print? Do you know?
Yes. I inspected that print myself for my series before they played it. I have played it again since then. I did hear that there was some issues there. Can't speak to specifically, but I've not detected anything. I'm having a second set of eyes look at it before Sunday, but it's good.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because, of course, you said, you're doing 70 millimeter as a passion of yours, and of course, I guess the series is culminating with 2001, as it should, right? Isn't that your?
Well, that is the final of the 70 millimeters ongoing once a month.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, as of now, I haven't booked further ahead of that. Was trying, sometimes getting prints, you have to kind of, is there a vault print? Is there an archive? Because no prints are available. I hear that a lot. And the only way that I actually got the archive prints for this was the fact that Nick was going to be there and Ralph was going to be there and Catherine was going to be there and Robin was going to be there. I mean, that's the only way they let me have them, plus pay an extra inspection fee. So sometimes it's harder to get those things. I wanted to try to get a print of 2010 to play as a sequel to that. I mean, I know they're kind of different pictures, but they go together. But I've not been able to do that as of yet, and it doesn't look promising. So
yeah, because it's the 40th anniversary this year of 2010. So it'd be a great, and it's a film that's underseen and underappreciated. Yeah. So that sounds like it would be great to screen that. And I imagine that, I don't know if Peter Hyams is still up and about, but he's always a good raconteur talking about his work. I mean, always an interesting guy. Love to see it.
Yeah, we played it once before. It did well. And this is what is called Christopher Nolan's unrestored version. So I think they went through and they did some cleaning up of it without any computerized or digital, I think is why it is called that. I don't know the specifics of it.
Right.
But
so this is the Nolan 2001, right? That they released a couple years ago.
Yes, that he supervised. It's not technically a restoration.
No,
it's called the unrestored version. So whatever that means, yes, that's the one we will be playing.
And tell us how the process, when you decide, okay, I'm going to do a Star Trek 70 millimeter film festival, where do you begin? Where does it start? Who's your first call? How do you go about doing it? And how do you know if you could pull it off?
Well, knowing if I could pull it off, first of all, comes from what I've done in the past on programs like this. And again, that's not a guarantee. My first step is to go to the owner of Screening Services Group, who operates the Fine Arts Theater. And I say, here's an idea. Here's what I did last time. What do you think? And, say, go ahead. Or don't. And then from there, I put together costs and I start talking to people. I've done shows with Ralph and Nick 2 or 3 times now. So they're on my first to call list. And, are you available? Would you be interested? And if they're available, they, usually will come out. And as I start, building that process, I can determine, how big I want to go with it or what my options are to create something. There's no guarantee that it's going to work. We recently hired a company to handle our social media for us. So they handle all of our, the ads for social media and targeting certain groups. We still do our own individual postings, but so getting the word out, trying to find proper placement of marketing, hitting the fan groups on Facebook and Instagram and the online fan groups, mainly local. We have gotten a little bit of national attention on this, which surprised me a little bit. At that point, I have to go to Paramount and say, are these available?
Right.
Or can I get and it was originally called the Super Star Trek 60th Anniversary. 70 millimeter was added when I finally got those archive prints. I asked last December.
Wow.
I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I finally got that, but I had to line my guests up. As I said earlier, you have to have this certain lineup of people before they'll even really consider something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I want to ask you, it was an interesting choice for 6 because you have Stephen Charles Jaffe and Cliff Eidelman coming.
Mm-hmm.
I know Nick has always said, everyone always asks me to speak about Star Trek 2, but they never asked me to talk about Star Trek.
I know that, and I told him, I said, I'm sorry, it just seems that you always get asked for that. But part of it has to do with he's got a new book coming out.
Yeah.
And he's going to be leaving to go on his book tour. And he actually suggested Stephen Charles and Cliff. So,
great.
And Cliff, for as old as I am, a young composer at that age to have done a movie score. And it is, I think, other than the traditional themes, it is one of the more popular scores, I think.
Yeah, no, and Stephen Charles Jaffe and Cliff are great, and people don't. That's why I was so tickled that you had them, because we had them at the Cinematheque a couple of years ago, and people don't normally associate them with 6, so it's so great because they have such great stories, and basically Stephen Charles Jaffe was. Basically the line producer. He has great stories on 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's great. And that's something the Cinematheque didn't have when they screened 6. They only showed the movie. You have these great people talking. And then, having Catherine Hicks, who doesn't talk about Star Trek 4 all that often.
No.
That's a great guest to have on 4.
Yeah. I've had Catherine out again. I go to my known contacts, and this is my 3rd event with her. She did Star Trek 4 when I did it in 2010. She also came out for the theater's anniversary series last April for a Child's Play, and back again this time. So if she's available, she knows who I am, or they know who I am, so they know that they feel secure in making the appearance, and everything is going to go as well as possible. So I hope.
Well, I want to ask you, if you can, Jerry, sort of, let's assume there's people who are listening who maybe aren't familiar with the virtues of 70 millimeter. Give them the pitch why they said, I got this on Laserdisc at home. Okay, maybe they're not saying that. I got this on Blu-ray at home, or 4K. Why should they go see a 70 millimeter version? You spell it out for them. What's so special about this?
70 millimeter, first of all. 70 millimeter, if you were going to paint the picture of a pair, standard, if your piece of canvas would be 1 3/4 inches square. Now, if you're going to paint that same pair on a comparable canvas to 70 millimeter, that would be a canvas that is the size of about 2 1/4 inches square. So the detail that you see on this bigger surface is you see a lot more detail and resolution in that. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Second thing is, in my opinion, the magnetic track, which is the same thing that films used to be mastered on before they were married. You had a picture and a mag track. You've actually got that mag track transferred directly to a mag track on the film. So you're getting the full fidelity of that sound. Now, digital sound is good, but I don't think it does it the justice that the mag sound does.
Yeah.
Those are the two things about 70. The second thing is coming together, whether it be Star Trek or anything else, with a group of people who are going to have a good time and laugh together and cheer together, cry together, eat popcorn together and react to the film. I played Spaceballs, I think in May, not, one of Mel's better films. I mean, it's not, but people came in having not seen it on the screen, and in 70 millimeter. And another one, I said, well, this print isn't any good. It's like, well, it's nearly pristine. I walked in the back of the auditorium. They laughed. just every single one of those jokes, visual or otherwise, they just laughed and had a good time. And I think that is, maybe even more key to a certain extent. And you do get to see it in the way it was originally made to be seen. Sure. In its original format with its imperfections. I mean, even brand new film is not a perfect medium. It has, just because of the way it's manufactured, has its own, built-in things that are not perfect.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The experience of watching a film with a crowd, especially a crowd who wants to be there, is amazing. And there's nothing like it. And that's what most people are missing these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there have been some comments. Well, I've got this on my Blu-ray at home. I've been some of the, social media comments. Like, you have that option. And
do you have 200 people in your living room? Probably not.
Right.
And I just want to talk a little bit about the theater. I guess a couple of years ago, it underwent seismic retrofitting. So it really is kind of the state of the art, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're still in the process of working on rebuilding the dual 3570 projectors a bit. I mean, those things were made in the 50s and they aren't replaced. The company doesn't exist anymore. There's no replacement parts.
Right.
So I've got to find somebody that's got a warehouse in, Canoga Park or New York or Minneapolis. I'm actually going to Chicago in September to a warehouse of a projectionist friend of mine who passed away not too long ago. He has some things stored there. So I'm going to be one of the people who's going to go and see what is in there, because there's some things that we would like to have, mainly backups for things so that when something does go wrong, we'll have a backup so that we can continue running. But there are no actual replacement parts, or you have to go have them made, which I have done that a couple of times. So, but other than that, state of the art, yes, we've got a new laser projector, we've got a Xenon, both digital, and we are a studio screening room, so we have the ability to project from computer, and we have a number of different cinema servers as backups also for, like, if you got a studio screening here and this projector goes down, you've got to have another projector or another server where it's going to take a lot only the power going out for us to take us down completely.
Right.
And how's the popcorn?
I am told it is the best in the city. I as long as it's not burnt, I can't. I'm sorry, I've just had too much of it over the years. I can't. Now, I might have a different opinion if I was sitting in the auditorium with that audience, and I've got my little Reese's Pieces or something down there, which some people do, and a gallon of butter and 15 packets of salt, and shake it up and go to the emergency room after. But I've never had any complaints on it.
Because you've talked about, keeping, 70 millimeter running. Is there an expiration date? Will people be watching or able to watch 70 millimeter films 25, 50 years from now, both with the disintegration of a lot of the prints that aren't being looked after, as well as the fact that they're not making these parts and a lot of these projectors anymore?
That I've wondered about that myself. And not only that is, when some of these bigger releases have come out recently, it's been hard to keep projectionists in place.
Yeah.
When I went out on Oppenheimer, we were contracted for 2 weeks. And a lot of these guys are taking time off of their regular work. I'm not speaking out of turn here, to take this, special engagement for 2 weeks. Well, after 2 weeks, they've got to go back to their regular job. So, and, there's a shortage of projectionists to a certain extent to start with. So that is another issue. But I think that the more recent films, they do make new prints occasionally. They've done the 2001. They did a new Lawrence of Arabia a couple of years ago. I think they made 5 prints of that. There was a new Hello Dolly made a few years ago. I mean, that's always a possibility, but that's an expense. Somewhere somebody has to back that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like there'll always be, I would think, Lawrence of Arabia and 2001, but, Life Force or Star Trek V, are people going to preserve these films? And if not, then, will they be kind of lost? Not in terms in this format.
Well, the thing about Lawrence of Arabia and what was the second one you meant? 2001. Those were both shot in 65 millimeter to start with. So that's an added, jewel that they have that gives them more reason to be redone or remastered, remade, new prints made.
Right.
But over the expiration of, passage of time, like you say, there's only one place in the United States I know of that can even make them. Is there somebody around that's going to know how to color time this or do this? I mean, that's a whole scientific process. I mean, I've never been the color timer other than to say, okay, it needs to be this or that. But as far as making those adjustments, and it's a complicated thing because it's not only the adjustments that you tell the machine, but it's the chemicals that are in the mix and the temperature of those chemicals in the mix. And there's a little control reading it's taken when it comes out and says, okay, does this match within a certain tolerance of what it's set to be? That stuff is all still available. It's like the projectionist, who's going to know how to do that? If we teach people going down, that part is still there. And one of the projector companies recently said that they are going to go back into business and manufacture new projectors if they could get an order from clients for a minimum of 10 projectors.
Right.
Or don't know what individual company is going to order 10 projectors unless it's going to be a big company like Boston Light and Sound, who, provides and services the projectors for the Nolan films and things of that sort. All further down, what I've been thinking about is at some point technology is going to go so far that I think it's going to become almost a forgotten medium or a historical thing that, it's, back in, whatever they used to do this. I've had that thought. I don't know how far that will be from now, but
that was a very good point you made about specifically Lawrence and 2001 being shot in 65. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these films that are released first in 70 were actually only shot in 35 anamorphic.
Right.
And so but the great thing about 70 is that it expands that anamorphic frame to the full resolution of the 70 millimeter, and it just looks so much better. And that's also one of the downgrades that you get from a film shot in 65 that is released in 35, because that is squashed into the frame of the lower resolution 35.
Can you help me break that down? I mean, look, I understand what you're talking about. Let's pretend for the sake of the argument that I'm an idiot. Okay, we don't have to work very hard to pretend that.
Well,
but explain to me why it, like, as an audience member, why my experience watching something that's shot 65, projected 70 is going to feel different from something shot 35, projected 70. What is the experience difference as an audience member?
Well, I think at that point it's not so much first of all, when I was making the example of the size of the image that you're going to paint. Here, the advantage is not only is it the original negative starts at that bigger image. So you're
getting 1-to-1.
Yeah, you're getting a bigger image, a more detailed image at that original capturing of the image, and not just one that's just blown up to show that added resolution.
So it's not just bigger; it's sharper.
Yes, because of, again, it's a picture painted on a bigger surface.
Right.
So it's painted on a bigger surface and projected on a bigger surface. Where
It's
the
closer
35,
to the original captured image.
Yeah. Whereas the 35 is blown up so that you can see the detail of what's there.
Right.
So, Jerry, if things go well, as I'm sure they will, would you want to do a sequel? This is Hollywood after all. Would you want to do the Next Generation films? Maybe throw Galaxy Quest and Free Enterprise in there?
Oh, I definitely would do Galaxy Quest and Free Enterprise. That would be my first two films. I wouldn't mind doing it. It would probably be digital. I'm not sure what the quality of prints, if they're even available. I mean, when I first was looking for this, there wasn't even a 35 millimeter print of one of them, 3 or 5 or something that was even left. So, is there going to be a print? Is it going to be usable? I mean, these, have their problems, but at least it is a print. Yeah. If there's not a print that's even usable, that would make it difficult. We could do a complete digital series. It's going to be a little harder to get talent for something like that because most of those people are, young enough that they're still working. I mean, Patrick Stewart is, on the road all the time doing something. He's either doing an appearance or doing a show or, he's finished, working on Picard.
Well,
so
Jerry,
to get somebody to come out.
If you end up doing it, I think we can help you get the talent you need. That's not
okay.
gonna be a problem.
If you can do that would be great. That is my biggest drawback. It's difficult for me has been difficult for me. So
we've basically been hanging out with all of them for the past few months. So
yeah.
I know that they're all very proud of most of those films, if not all. But most of them.
It's like anything. It's like the first 6. There's some that are better than others.
Sure.
For whatever reason. So, I just want, and hope people will come out, have a good time with us, and see these things on the big screen in the big format. I think is going to be a really good time. And that's my, I hope that people will come out and see us.
Yeah, Friday, August 30th at 7:30, it's Star Trek The Motion Picture, the Director's Edition. And that'll be in 4K because it is the Director's Edition. And Ralph Winter and Mike Matessino will be there. Ralph, of course, was a post-production supervisor, worked at the studio during the Star Trek The Motion, making of Star Trek The Motion Picture. Then on Saturday...
I don't think Ralph worked on that one, that he was post
He worked at the
Paramount.
studio.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And then
I'm sorry. He worked on 2 through 6, though. That much I know for sure.
He sure did. And Ralph is a wonderful a keeper of the history of Star Trek. Wonderful stories. People have heard him on this show many times. If you came to our panels in Vegas, you got to see Ralph talk about 3 and 5, and he's just terrific. So Saturday, August 31st at 1:00, it's a double feature. It's Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan with Nick Meyer. At 8:30, it's Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. Many of yours favorite film. Sunday, September 1st, 12:30, it's The Voyage Home with the great Catherine Hicks. At 4:30, it's The Final Frontier, Star Trek 5 with Ralph Winter. At 8:30, it's Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, directed by Nicholas Meyer, of course, with Cliff Eidelman, the composer, the wonderful composer, and producer Stephen Charles Jaffe. So it's an incredible way to spend your Labor Day. What was it, Go Ape with Planet of the Apes? Well, this is Go Trek. You can spend the whole weekend watching, or what was it, Sit Long and Prosper?
Yeah, that's right. That was it.
1991.
Was that what it was? I was trying to remember that. And which films was it?
1 through 5.
1 through 5.
Was
they
it?
played the trailer for 6.
That's what I couldn't remember. I was there. I couldn't remember the detail.
I still have my ticket somewhere. It was pretty amazing.
This is at the Fine Arts Theater in Beverly Hills, right off of La Cienega. It's very easy parking. It's a great theater. It's going to be a great weekend. And Jerry, if at some point you want to show Free Enterprise, I could probably help you with that.
Okay, that would be great.
You teased something before we went recording that you had a bit of a connection to Free Enterprise in the beginning.
Well, kind of indirectly, only that Mark and I both, the company that released it was a company that I did some work for also. I think probably about 2 years after Free Enterprise came out. So I mean, it was kind of indirect, but
right.
Region Entertainment. Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know the story, after we turned down our deal from New Line, being the idiots we were, and then we're trying to find distribution. Regent saw it at the Winnipeg Film Festival. You know the Winnipeg Film Festival in Canada, and picked up the distribution and put it out theatrically the weekend after Phantom Menace. So it opened in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago and a couple other cities. And a few weeks later, it was gone, much like Lucy in the Sky, but it's gone to live on. Now celebrating its 25th anniversary, which is insane.
If I could go back in time, I would go back in time and shake you.
That wasn't.
You had to know now, or know then what you know now in order to be able to do that. Because I might have just made the same decision. You wouldn't have known, but until you go through those experiences.
That's absolutely right. There are many good reasons that happened, but you know, it's like we look back and we could have gone right when I went left. But Jerry, this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing you checking out these films this weekend, Labor Day weekend in Beverly Hills at the Fine Arts. It's gonna be great, and we're so glad that you were able to jump on and talk about your love of 70 and your passion for Star Trek with us.
Glad to do it. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Good luck. We're hoping you sell at every screening.
I hope so. I can't do it, but live long and prosper.
Good enough. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. We're back. That was interesting.
That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always fascinated by people who have these interesting, like, sources of expertise. Like Jerry is like, he's a very interesting, like, he knows everything there is to know about 70 millimeter films and projecting 70 millimeter, but it's a dying art. And it's what I asked. That's why I thought that was interesting when I asked him about the future. You know, 25, 50 years from now, are people going to be able to project 70 millimeter prints? I mean, especially, you know, right now, the only reason that some of this exists is because Chris Nolan and Spielberg and Scorsese, you know, and Quentin won't let it, you know, completely fall by the wayside. But, you know, where are we going to be in 25, 50 years with this?
Although I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but the Chris Nolan release version of 2001 is terrible.
I haven't seen it. I've only seen the Cinematheque has a great print.
The Cinematheque has a perfect print.
Yeah, which I enjoy watching that version.
Yeah, it's glorious. I had the honor of having dinner with Doug Trumbull a couple times, and we talked about the Nolan version. He said, "Oh my God, it's just the color timing is terrible. It's just wrong." So, you know, go see it if you're curious.
I love when all these guys, you know, because they were friends with somebody, feel like they know what they would do. It's like when Spielberg said, "I know what Kubrick would do," you know, and it's like, I mean, like, they are masters of their own thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like for us to say, well, I know what Gene Kuhn would do or Gene Roddenberry would do.
He would kick an ass or two.
We may be some of the most knowledgeable people on the planet about Gene Roddenberry and Gene Kuhn and the original, but it doesn't mean we know what they would do.
That's right. Sometimes I don't even know what I would do.
I mean, look, you at least, when you were doing motion picture, you had the benefit of Robert Wise still being alive and telling you what he would do. You know, it wasn't like you were guessing. It was like, oh, well, this is what Robert Wise would do. We know. We talked to him. He was alive. He told us what he would do. We asked him, right?
So, well, and but the great thing about that, the other print of 2001 that Leon Vitali supervised. Leon Vitali was Kubrick's right-hand man and handled all his releases and all the color timing on all the movies. So he knew exactly what Kubrick wanted. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
Yeah, but I know what Kubrick would have done with Barry Lyndon. It would have been.
He would have lit some candles.
He would have been in black and white.
Let's light this candle.
Oh my God! But anyway, I think the 70 millimeter festival is very exciting. If you're in the LA area, or if you're in Texas and want to fly to the LA area, like our friends who went to see Khan in New York, this is your chance to see all the Star Trek movies in 70 millimeter, except for Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But that DCP, we have, obviously we were lucky enough. I'm not speaking for Darren; he's screened it many times, but lucky enough to screen it at the Paramount Theater for its premiere, and it is stunning.
Yeah,
it's stunning to see in a theater.
I was actually at the Cinematheque showing of the motion picture when they had the 70 millimeter, and it was a disaster. And it was so
well,
disappointing.
That dinner was not a disaster. Like, we had a lovely dinner because we introduced it, and then we left when the print was playing because it was awful.
We got away from the pink glow of the screen.
We had a great dinner, and then we came back for Star Trek 2, or was that the next day? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Every time I've done a couple with the Cinematheque, I've done a couple of those Star Trek festivals with them where we brought in, I think for the 50th, we did a whole thing. We brought in a bunch of people. And, but they never wanted to show Star Trek 5. Like, every time I wanted to do it, I wanted to do all the films. So like, oh, we don't show Star Trek 5. I'm so glad that we got to do what we did with Bill. It was like, fuck you. We're going to do Star Trek 5 and we're going to do it better than anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And we did. I'm still floating on air over that Star Trek 5 thing.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear the audio because I feel like it has to be one of the, if not one of the great commentaries of all time. Certainly it has to be one of the great Star Trek commentaries of all time because holy shit.
Yeah.
Just
well,
amazing.
I think there's Peter Bogdanovich doing commentary on Citizen Kane. And then there is us doing commentary with Bill Shatner on Star Trek 5. Probably the two great commentaries of all time.
Yeah,
Bogdanovich's commentary on Trek 5 is terrible.
It is. It was terrible. I tried, and it was just unlistenable.
But at least he was wearing an ascot.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we should do, one of these days, we should do a 4:30 movie, like the best commentaries.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I already know what my pick would be.
Me too.
Really?
You know what my pick would be, or you know what your pick would be? I'm not going to tell you.
No, I don't know what my pick would be.
I know what my pick would be.
I'd have to really think about it. There are a couple of really great comments. Well, let's do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So it was one of the final
4:30 movies coming back soon. So listen.
And so's Cartoon Barroom.
Damn right.
That's
Cartoon
right.
Barroom's coming back with Steve Melching, Ashley Miller, and their new host, Sarah Nakacheni. So
you nearly said Nakatomi.
I did. What's the Nakatomi? God. And so that's going to be really great. And of course, as always, the Trekspert briefing room, they're going to be playing some of the panels from Vegas, like the Prodigy panel and the 12 Monkeys panel.
Right.
So you want to tune into Trekspert briefing room. Of course, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be playing select panels from Vegas, as well as our recent GalaxyCon. However, the Star Trek 5 commentary will not be among them. We are still in discussions about the best way how that's going to be handled in the future. And if you're anxiously awaiting the drop of Star Trek 5, don't, because it's not imminent.
Don't hold your breath.
No.
Well, you can try. It just won't last very long.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what else you want to do. You want to subscribe to Deck 78. Deck 78 is back in a big way. It's commercial free. You want to subscribe at TrekspertsPlus.com. And of course, we're going to be announcing our upcoming screening series via our Discord channel for our Deck 78 subscribers. So you may get to watch Darren forced to watch The Black Hole. Who knows what the future holds?
You see, I have a little video here that I can just turn on that is basically me just
nodding.
And it can go for hours and hours while I go off and do something else.
It's like a hologram of Darren.
Yeah.
It's like in Live and Let Die, when they have Kananga's mission at the UN, his embassy bugged, and he puts on the tape, and he's giving the speech, but meanwhile he's going off to, do what his, whatever evil doing he does.
All deceptions wrapped in misleading
and stuff like that there.
Live and let die. Great disguise, Bond, white man in Harlem. Oh, man. That's a line from the movie.
When you were young and your life was an open book,
lost a fight with a chicken.
You used to say, live and let live.
Now can you do it like Shatner?
Yes. In fact, look on my Patreon for when I release A View to a Bill, which is a bunch of James Bond themes sung in the style of William Shatner.
See, that's reason alone for people to subscribe to your Patreon channel.
Yeah.
That's
right. My
right.
Patreon channel is Beta 5 Productions, by the way.
That's special stuff. That's special. You never know what Darren's cooking up. He's always doing interesting, quirky little things.
I'm out there.
There's always something in his kitchen.
So you should support Darren and all his crazy endeavors, because you never know when something's going to be utter genius.
Well,
or madness, or mad genius.
Or both. Yeah.
Or expensive.
So, okay, so let's get this out of the way. If you are at the Star Trek event this weekend and I happen to be there, you don't need to say hello. You don't need to come up to me. Just enjoy the movie. It's fine. I don't need to see you.
Just face forward.
Don't
look at me. Don't look at me.
If you want to tell me how much you love the show, email is
because then we can read it on a future episode.
gmail.com.
Say it from across the room.
Okay, I'm very worried about COVID. I'm not going to shake your hand. I'm happy to say hello briefly.
No kissing. That's right out.
Well, depends.
No tongue.
No.
Anyway.
No. No. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us for another fine episode. My God, my wife is going to kill me when she listens to that episode. You're such a jerk to people. I'm not that bad.
No, you're the optimist. We're the mean ones.
That's right.
Yeah, Mr. Grinch. You are. Because I'm happy-go-lucky.
Uh-huh.
I'm positive. I'm the guy. Yeah, anyway, so.
You're happy-go-lightly.
It's the male version of Holly Golightly.
Yes,
that's right. She was a fan of George Peppard. I was a fan of the A-Team.
Right.
That's right.
So
same thing.
I pity the fool who has breakfast at Tiffany's.
I pity the fool who pities fools. I prefer breakfast at Mickey D's.
I ain't eating breakfast with Murdoch. He's crazy.
I don't like breakfast. As we know, me and Denise Crosby have that in common. Neither of us like breakfast. We like going right to the lunch. Go right for the pizza.
But Ashley and I enjoy breakfast.
We do enjoy breakfast.
You do. And
very
you should
early.
do the breakfast report. I wouldn't know anything about early. It's later than you think. So anyway.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, here on the Trekspert, and you can join us on social and or of course on our new Discord channel where the conversation never ends, or of course on YouTube. I hate doing the hyperbole. and then of course on YouTube where we got the video versions and the audio and a lot of other kitschy fun. And we hope
join us. Unite the clans.
Yeah. Clan McLeod. Anyway, until next week, next Thursday, when we return with all new episodes. We're almost at the end of the 6th season. Almost there. And then, so we're gonna. I think Star Trek Day is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's the day that the Man Trap premiered on NBC. So I think maybe we'll drop Saturday Morning Fever that day.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was our panel we did in Vegas. On Saturday morning, we asked people to come in their pajamas, and we showed them up, and we did a thing on the animated Star Trek. So I think we'll September 7th, we'll drop a special episode, which will be our Saturday Morning Fever panel from Vegas. That was a good one. That had John, what was his name? William Simpson, who played young Spock. Yeah,
You're a Terran, Spock.
And we
had a dirty Terran.
Great group of the Creative Brain Trust on Prodigy as well. So you'll want to look out for that. That's going to be coming up on. That'll be our version of Star Trek Day. We should do a live Star Trek Day broadcast.
Oh my God!
It will be the one where we do talk about Kirk and Spock in the original series and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
So it's counter-programming.
Yeah.
And then, right, it'd be counter-programming. Exactly.
We talk about Star Trek. Well, they talk about other stuff.
So anyway.
But does that make me a cranky old guy?
Hey, we celebrate the love here. Stop bagging on.
We celebrate the love for original Star Trek.
You're negative. Answer. I like that reference, the answer reference. Okay, enough with this. Let's get going. So on behalf of Ashley Edward Miller, Peabody Award winning DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and myself, Mark A. Altman, keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course, and we'll see you next Thursday.